All right, strap in everyone, because today we're going deep on Think and Grow Rich.
Ooh, a classic.
It is, but with a twist. We're using Dr. Abundant's Annotated edition.
Oh, I like him. He brings in that spiritual side.
Exactly. It's like Hill's practical steps meet a deeper understanding of, well, ourselves and the universe.
Powerful combo.
And to think, this all started with Andrew Carnegie, that steel magnate.
Right. Challenging Hill to spend 20 years interviewing over 500 successful people. Can you imagine?
The pressure to decode their secrets, what a task.
But Hill did it, gave us Think and Grow Rich, and Dr. Abundant unpacks it all, makes it more, I don't know, usable for us today.
Heck, because who's got time to decipher everything? Let's jump in first principle, burning desire.
Uh-oh, sounds intense.
It is.
Huh?
Hill says it's not wishing, it's that can't-sleep drive to achieve something.
Like, gotta have it level desire.
Yeah, and there's this story about Darby, the gold prospector.
Yep, I think I know this one.
He gave up 3 feet from striking gold.
No way, what happened?
He had the desire, took action, but no persistence when it got tough.
Dr. Abundant would say that's lack of spiritual alignment, right?
Exactly. Darby's desire wasn't connected to his soul's purpose, so he faltered.
Deep stuff.
It is. So it's not just wanting something badly, it's that inner knowing it's aligned with you.
Makes sense. And from there, Hill talks about faith.
Right, but not blind faith. It's cultivating unshakable belief in yourself and your goals.
And he says it's active, not just something you're born with.
He calls it autosuggestion. We might call it affirmations today.
Repeating positive statements to replace self-doubt.
Exactly. Dr. Abundance says this rewires our subconscious for success.
I can see that.
And there's this incredible story about Hill's son who was born deaf.
Wow, I haven't heard this one.
Hill truly believed, through faith and autosuggestion, his son would hear. And he did.
Wow, that's powerful. So belief plus action can change things?
Absolutely. But faith needs fuel. That's where specialized knowledge comes in.
So not just any knowledge, but what's tied to your goals.
Right. Like this woman who helped her son land a high-paying job.
By just, like, pushing his resume harder?
No, she helped him create a personal service sales plan to show his skills.
Ah, smart. So it's targeted strategic knowledge.
Exactly. Dr. Abundant even links this to spiritual growth. We need specific practices to grow there, too.
Makes sense. So we should be choosy about the info we take in.
Absolutely. Focus on what empowers us to take action. But sometimes, even with that, we need a spark. That's where imagination comes in.
Not just daydreaming, right.
Right. Hill says it's a creative force to bridge thoughts and reality.
Dr. Abundant would call it like the start of manifestation.
Yes. Using our imagination to bring things into being. And think of Asa Candler.
Coca-Cola guy.
Yep. Bought the recipe for $500, turned it into a global empire.
That's insane. He must have had some serious imagination.
He envisioned it, then took action. Imagination can be a catalyst for huge achievements.
That's inspiring. But even with all that, you need a plan, right?
You got it.
Yeah.
That's where organized planning comes in. It's not just a vague idea.
Gotta have those steps.
A detailed roadmap of how you'll achieve your goal, like Charles M. Schwab.
Steel guy, right.
Yep. Turned one idea into a $600 million profit through planning and clear vision.
That's the power of organization and action. But Dr. Abundant connects this to, wait for it, divine will.
Oh, interesting.
He says when we plan, we're aligning with a bigger cosmic plan, making it easier for the universe to help.
So we're co-creating with the universe. But even with plans, there's decision, something we all struggle with.
Procrastination central.
Hill says indecision is self-sabotage, draining us, keeping us stuck.
Like standing at a crossroads forever.
He has this gripping story about a man on death row finding peace by accepting his fate.
Wow, heavy. So even in that situation, decision can be freeing.
It's about choosing and committing fully. Dr. Abundant says indecision blocks us from universal energy.
Oh, that's interesting. Like it stops our desires from manifesting.
Exactly. Sometimes a decision is better than staying uncertain. We got to take the leap.
But what about when things get tough? You hit those roadblocks.
That's where persistence comes in. Hill says it's unwavering determination.
You're not giving up when it gets hard.
Exactly. Seeing obstacles as opportunities to grow. He talks about Fannie Hurst.
The writer.
Yes, struggled in New York for years before making it on Broadway.
4 years. That's commitment.
Persistence in action. Dr. Abundant says it's more than just pushing through.
It's resilience, bouncing back and keeping the faith.
Right. Tapping into our strength, trusting we'll reach our destination.
I like that. But sometimes, even persistence needs a boost.
True. That's where power comes in. But not just brute force.
It's going to be more than that.
Hill says it's harnessing our inner power, our skills and drive, and also outer power.
Meaning?
Collaborating, connecting with others. Think of Henry Ford.
I mean, he was brilliant, but
He collaborated with Edison and Firestone, amplified his own abilities.
like the saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Exactly. We can achieve more together.
Yeah.
But Dr. Abundant has this spiritual take on power. He says true power comes from aligning with our highest self and that infinite intelligence we're all connected to.
So it's not about dominance, but about working together towards something bigger.
Absolutely. Understanding we're all interconnected. But now, we enter tricky territory. Sex transmutation.
Ooh, this one always gets people talking.
I know, but before anyone jumps to conclusions, Hill is not advocating for suppressing sexuality.
It's more nuanced than that.
He's talking about understanding its power, how it can fuel creativity and ambition.
Like redirecting it towards something productive.
Yes. He has this research linking highly developed sex natures with great achievements.
Interesting. So not fearing it, but seeing it as a force for good.
Exactly. And Dr. Abundant links this to Eastern traditions.
Where they talk about transmuting base desires into higher consciousness.
Right, refining this energy into creative expression, personal growth, even enlightenment.
This is a lot to unpack, but it's making more sense now.
I know, right? We've covered so much ground, the foundation of Think and Grow Rich. Dr. Abundant's take on it all.
Feels like we're just scratching the surface, though.
We are. There's so much more to explore. Those 6 basic fears Hill talks about, more on this transmutation idea. It gets really interesting.
Can't wait. Let's dive back in. Welcome back. Ready to tackle those inner gremlins?
You mean those 6 basic fears Hill talks about?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of nervous, but bring it on.
These aren't like being scared of spiders, right?
Nope. Hill says these fears can paralyze us, stop us from reaching our full potential.
Okay, so what are we dealing with?
Poverty, criticism, ill health, losing love, old age, and death.
Whoa, that got dark quick.
It's heavy stuff, but Hill says confronting them is key.
Like staring them down so they lose their power.
Exactly, so we can go after our dreams with more courage. Let's start with poverty. Hill says there's a real divide between the path of poverty and the path of riches,
So gotta pick a lane.
and reject anything leading towards lack, but it's deeper than just money, right?
It's the mindset, that scarcity thing, thinking there's not enough to go around.
And Dr. Abundant reminds us that true wealth is about aligning with our inner divinity, that infinite abundance.
Shifting from lack to possibility, love it. But then there's criticism. Oof, that one gets me.
Me too, who hasn't felt that sting of judgment.
It's like ingrained in us, always worrying what others think.
And Hill says it comes from low self-confidence, needing others to validate us.
You know what's crazy? Even Hill felt it.
Seriously. The guy who wrote the book on success.
When Carnegie gave him the challenge, he was terrified, scared of failing, not being good enough.
Wow, so even he had to battle those thoughts.
He did, but he chose to push past it, embrace the challenge, and look what happened.
Think and Grow Rich was born. So facing that fear can lead to amazing things.
Totally. But then there's the fear of ill health, which, like, everyone has, right?
Of course we want to be healthy, but is Hill saying to ignore it completely?
Not at all. He's just saying don't dwell on it.
Because
He thinks worry and stress weaken our immune system, like we manifest what we fear.
I've totally experienced that. Stressing about getting sick makes me more likely to get sick.
Exactly. And Dr. Abundance says our thoughts have power over our physical well-being.
So, got to cultivate that positive mindset. Focus on health instead of fear.
Totally. Okay, deep breath. Let's talk about the fear of loss of love.
Oof, that's a big one. We all crave connection, belonging.
The pain of losing someone we love, it's huge.
Hill gets that, but he says, don't depend on someone else for your happiness.
Easier said than done.
Right. But he tells this story about King Edward VIII, who gave up the throne for love.
Wait, really? That's intense.
Love can make us do crazy things, but it can also lead to sacrifices.
Edward found happiness, but at a huge cost.
And Dr. Abundant says, while love is powerful, true fulfillment comes from loving ourselves first.
Knowing our own worth and connecting to a love that's bigger than any one person.
It's about finding that balance, cherishing the love we have, but also having that inner strength.
Beautiful. Okay, getting real here. Fear of old age and death.
The fears that get louder as we, get older.
We're taught to be scared of aging, seeing it as decline and loss.
But Hill says, what if it's not? What if it's wisdom, experience, self-mastery?
Reframing it completely.
Embracing each stage of life instead of fearing time passing. And with death, He says a lot of the terror is from how we're taught about it.
Societal stuff, religious belief.
He wants us to understand it differently, maybe even spiritually, as part of life's cycle.
I can see that.
He tells this story about a man on death row, hours before his execution, and the guy was calm,
Seriously, I'd be freaking out.
but the man had accepted his fate and found peace. Dr. Abundant even suggests death might be a transition, not an ending.
Wow, that's a whole other level.
Right. So we've faced those 6 fears, but how do we actually conquer them?
Hill says, you ready for this? Make a decision.
That's it, just decide.
He says, decide to reject those fears. Don't let them control you.
Take back our power, focus on courage and faith.
And having a purpose, a mission bigger than ourselves.
Knowing our life has meaning, that we're here for a reason.
And of course, that faith thing comes back. Not blind faith, but trust in the universe, in ourselves.
And Dr. Abundant says, aligning with our purpose and trusting deeply gives us the strength to overcome anything.
So we're not alone. There's something bigger guiding us.
Exactly. But should we revisit that sex transmutation thing?
Deep breaths, everyone. We're going there.
Last time we touched on it, it was more nuanced than I thought.
It's definitely Hill pushing boundaries, especially for back then.
1937, people weren't exactly open about this stuff.
But he's not saying suppress it. He's saying understand it.
He's actually celebrating its power, how it can fuel our creativity and ambition.
Like transforming it into something better, something higher.
Yeah, he uses this garden analogy. If you plant in bad soil, nothing grows.
So got to make sure the soil is good.
Right, expressing this energy in ways that aren't aligned with our purpose won't bring true fulfillment.
Makes sense. So how do we make sure our garden is thriving?
Hill says this energy can be transmuted, transformed into something that fuels our passions, our ambitions.
Like, instead of fleeting pleasure, it becomes the driving force behind great things.
Yes. And he has examples, artists inspired by love, inventors driven to create something new.
So their passion, their drive, it came from this transmuted energy.
It's a fascinating idea, finding a positive outlet, channeling it towards something meaningful.
And Dr. Abundant, of course, takes it to the spiritual level.
Go on.
He sees it as a way to elevate our consciousness, to move past just physical desires.
And tap into a universal creative power.
Exactly. Aligning ourselves with that divine flow, becoming a channel for something bigger.
Wow. Okay. Starting to see the bigger picture now. Okay, deep breaths, everyone. We're back for the final part of our deep dive into Think and Grow Rich. And honestly, still a bit apprehensive about this whole mystery of sex transmutation chapter, but also super curious.
I get it. It's definitely the most, let's say, provocative principle in the book.
Provocative is one word for it.
But stick with me. I think Hill was tapping into something really profound here.
Okay, lay it on me. How do we even begin to unravel this mystery?
Well, Hill starts by separating the energy itself from the physical act.
Okay, so not just about sex, but the energy behind it.
Exactly. He's saying it's a life force, driving us, motivating us, but often expressed in ways that are, well, fleeting.
Not leading to anything lasting.
Right. He uses this analogy of a garden. You can't plant seeds in bad soil and expect them to grow.
So we need to cultivate the right soil for this energy.
Exactly. It's about channeling it consciously, not just letting it run wild.
Okay, I'm following, but how do we actually do that?
Hill suggests transmuting it, transforming it into something higher, something that fuels our creativity, our ambitions.
Can you give me some concrete examples?
He talks about artists finding inspiration through love, pouring that passion into their work.
So taking that intense feeling and turning it into art, music, writing.
Yes. And he also points to inventors, entrepreneurs, driven by this burning desire to create.
So their drive, their ambition, it's all coming from this transmuted energy.
That's the idea, finding a constructive outlet, something that aligns with your purpose.
And Dr. Abunda would say this ties into, what, raising our consciousness.
Exactly, moving beyond those base-level desires and tapping into something more universal.
So not just personal growth, but like connecting to a bigger creative force.
Yes. It's about aligning with that flow, becoming a channel for something beyond ourselves.
Wow, this is a lot to take in, but it's starting to click.
Good, because here's the kicker. How do we actually make this happen?
Yeah, how do we go from theory to practice?
Hill emphasizes self-control, mastering our desires and directing them toward our goals.
So not denying them, but understanding their power, choosing how to express it.
Exactly. And Dr. Abundant adds in the importance of intention, consciously choosing where this energy goes.
Makes sense. If we don't have a clear vision, it'll just be scattered, unfocused.
Right. It's about taking that raw power and turning it into something refined, something that drives us towards our goals.
It's like alchemy, turning lead into gold.
I like that analogy. And remember, it's a process, not a one-time thing.
It takes practice, patience, constantly refining our approach.
And as we master this, Hill believes it can lead to truly extraordinary achievements.
This has been quite the deep dive, those 13 principles, facing our fears, and now this whole transmutation concept.
Hill was ahead of his time in many ways.
And Dr. Abundant's insights make it even more powerful, more applicable for us today.
If you're ready to explore this further, I highly recommend picking up Dr. Abundant's annotated edition of Think and Grow Rich, available on Amazon.
It's like a cheat sheet for unlocking your full potential.
And for all our listeners, remember, the power to create the life you want is within you.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve, right?
Exactly. So go out there, embrace your dreams, and start thinking and growing rich in every area of your life.
And until next time, keep diving deep.